How you doing, guys? This is ZedEye here. So today I definitely wanted to talk about Dead Space Remake, and I'm just like thinking about this, the way that Callisto Protocol has ended up being, basically a disappointment for a lot of people. No, I'm not gonna say as if it's a bad game, it's not, but it is a disappointment comparing this what Glenn Schofield and a lot of their developers basically were able in managing to create and craft, such as Dead Space 1 and 2, and I think partially 3 as well, right? Or a whole thing, I'm not too certain. But yeah, it's just seeing this is so disappointing. But yet then afterwards, because we know that Dead Space Remake is on the way, coming out at the end of January 2023, and so it's just like, whoa, a couple more weeks, well, a bit more than that, obviously, until its official release. And then we've gotten from IGN a first 18 minutes gameplay of Dead Space Remake, and I'm just like looking at this gameplay, how good it looks, right? But of course it is a remake, obviously you would expect these things. But then I'm just like thinking, man, this is so disappointing, because the Callisto Protocol ended up being basically a little bit of an appetizer for the main course. And that main course, it seems like to be the Dead Space Remake. It genuinely is very disappointing to actually have summarized on that, because that's just unfortunately the case. Now, I'm looking at the gameplay, after I already have watched it, but of course you can see it here in the background as well. It looks good. It looks fantastic. I gotta say, guys, that Necromancers, is that how you pronounce their names, right? It's been a while, guys, as you can hear. But basically, I think they're far more freakier compared to any of those monsters within the Callisto Protocol. It may be because that the Callisto Protocol has more human-esque monsters. They resemble more humans, and maybe that's why it's not as freaky or scary. But here in Dead Space, oh man, there are a lot more like kind of quirky, weird, and it's just like, oh man, it's just grotesque through and through. And yet, I'm just looking at this like I cannot just feel sad for the Callisto Protocol, because like the expectations were there, right? I was just like, even though I was looking forward to it, I ended up deciding not to get the game, because that's just, I was torn on the game, right? On the Callisto Protocol before its release, and I said, I don't know if I want to pick it up or not. And it just confirmed all my worst nightmares basically for that game. Not necessarily because of the horror, because there is no horror, because there is no survival factor, because there's only mainly of the scary moments within that game. It is the jump scares in the Callisto Protocol, and that is a big no. That is a big minus, negative. That's just an outdated game design. And I don't understand how Dead Space does it right. And yet, yeah, don't get me wrong, as if they don't have scary moments or those scare jumps. They do have that, plenty of them. But I mean, they do everything else so much better. It's just quite sad to see how a 2008 game far surpasses a 2022 game. It's just insane. And yet, I'm just thinking about it, that has actually been basically made by the same developers, and yet they cannot surpass themselves or even make in a similar caliber like they did back in Dead Space 1. And maybe because the limitations in the technology that they had back then, maybe that was the reason why they had no creative desire or direction for Callisto Protocol. Now, again, guys, I'm not gonna say as if they had zero, creative vision within Callisto Protocol. Obviously, you can clearly see the enemies' design, soundtrack, graphics. It's all there. It's really good. It's atmospheric in a lot of cases, even though it is soulless. But I think that Dead Space does it far better. And yet, when we're seeing the remake is gonna be coming out, it's just far surpasses everything that Callisto is, and that sucks. But what kind of makes it scary as well? Well, not in terms of the game, but scary, your expectations can actually be diminished when, what if Dead Space Remake comes out and it's disappointment because the remake is a big bummer. And man, that would actually, that would be very bad. Man, it's just like, what in the world is even going on? But yeah, guys, that's all I really want to have a little bit of a discussion, just comparing these two games basically back to back, and just seeing how Dead Space basically surpasses practically in everything compared to what it was the Callisto Protocol. It's basically, like I said, Callisto Protocol is just a simple appetizer, and just waiting for the main course, that is Dead Space Remake. That's just generally what it ended up being. Alright, like and subscribe, guys. See you guys all, and have a wonderful day.